that was a mystery of a day. So I'm the last one. I'm supposed to do some observations and maybe summary. One observation I'll make is that my slide probably looked like I stole from all of the previous presenters. All they did from me. And hopefully what that means is that revenue management is the actual discipline and the actual practice, and we do use the same terms, more or less, even though we come from the different companies and from different school of thoughts. And that can be learned and can be applied with some regular practice and insights. So I am coming from Sabre, that is a technology provider for revenue management practice and for many other practices in travel industry. So while Michael and Eric were using miles of duct tape over the last couple of years, we kind of had a break. We realized pretty soon that building systems that can work during COVID is hopeless, right? So something like you've heard enough about how drastic these changes were, and creating some kind of science that would help during this is probably completely impractical. So what we were able to do is we were able to take a pause, look at what sort of was trending in the industry over the last several years, what it is, what we see going into the future, what happens across the globe. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. When I was thinking how to summarize what I do believe is the future of revenue management and how it will change within the next 3 to 5 years, that's sort of a general topic of my presentation. And what I observed is COVID accelerated these trends, in my opinion, and it was recognized that how important the technology is, it recognized how important the data is, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So to talk about changes in pricing and revenue management, we need to understand what is pricing and revenue management. So that's a quote from Bob Gross' book, but I think it has been around even earlier than that. Right price to the right customer at the right time. And all of you have experienced revenue management. Anytime you're looking at booking a hotel room or booking a flight or rental car, there's a price showing up, and that price ultimately is determined by some kind of revenue management system which is running underneath of that practice. So how does that revenue management practice works, and what kind of technology is used within this practice? So that process, 4-step, is repeated from one book to another, from one presentation to another, from one paper to another. And for the last 40 years, I'd say, when revenue management became a practice which is applied in at least travel industry, but gradually it migrated to other industries as well, that process has been explained many, many times. So you usually start with some kind of history of purchase, and then you predict the demand for the future based on this history. Then you optimize for what the optimal offer should be, what the optimal price should be, and then these optimal prices are getting published. And that's what 40 years of revenue management, at least from a technology standpoint, on one slide look like. And a lot of advances were made in this demand forecasting and optimization over the last, I'd say, at least 30 years. We've done quite a lot of things on moving from the leg systems to O&D systems. We adopted to restriction-free pricing. Eric talked about moving into a continuous pricing. So the models from a science perspective, which are now used by the most advanced revenue management systems, are pretty complicated from a math perspective. But then I was looking, and I even surprised myself. I was looking at that picture when I was thinking about this presentation, and that first step, the history, the data which is going into this practice and into this technology, I surprised myself when I thought about it. It hasn't changed much in 40 years. I remember seeing some of the reports from American Airlines where some of the early systems were developed in the early 80s, and they are talking about bookings and availability, which means at a given price, how many tickets we sold or how many rooms we booked. And then if we increase the price, how many we booked at a different point in time. So What's green here, it's availability, which means what's available, what's not available to the public. And the numbers are booking, how many tickets were sold, how many rooms were booked. That's the data which goes into the revenue management systems and revenue management practice. And that hasn't changed much in the last 40 years, even though the models became more and more complicated. So that's the common theme of what I'd like to highlight today. That's what I believe is going to be changing very significantly in the next 5 years, is this first step, which is data which is coming into revenue management practice. So I'll give you a few examples of what can be done in terms of additional data, which ultimately influences what kind of prices, what kind of offers from a revenue management perspective we are giving to consumers. So purchase history will still be there. And, but what I think is going to be possible now is, instead of just looking at my own history, which is how revenue management systems work today, there is some data sharing agreements, there is some technology which is available that allows us to now look at, or at least approximate, how this data looked for our competitors. And obviously, that can be included in the demand forecasting and optimization, and hence the prices which will come out of this will be better, because that history reflects the actual customer behavior better. Another data point is customer segments, which is what Eric talked about a lot. We recognize that there are segments within the populations, and they exhibit the same behavior or close behavior. And if we forecast for these segments, and if we make offers for these segments which are targeted towards them, that can improve the general practice. What's next? Choice models. Again, Eric mentions a little bit about it. Michael mentioned about this. This is understanding customer behavior. It's not just this is the price we want to sell you, but how do people select if they want to travel or not? How do people select between different offers available to them? When do they want to fly? What type of room do they want to book? So understanding that behavior will help us to better create these offers and to better price these offers. Market conditions. We've seen for the last couple of years how much health restrictions or maybe political unrest influences the demand for travel. There are plenty other components or factors which are not leveraged in revenue management systems today. We are not looking at the global economic trends. We are not looking at the climate changes. We are not looking at the things like whatever demographics in different countries, whatever different industries linked to each other, which all generate demand for traffic. And that is an opportunity for us to improve revenue management practice. Ancillaries and bundles, that's a quite elaborate practice now, and more airlines and hotels are getting into the retailing space. Instead of optimizing just the right to fly from point A to point B, it's the whole travel experience. It's all the ancillaries during the flight, all the packaging which can be done. How do we sell these ancillaries? How do we bundle them together, again, so they would be most attractive for the different customer segments? How do we provide these optimal discounts so people will upsell into these ancillaries? So that's something which has started with low-cost carriers and has been progressing, but now more and more it gets into the technology and the system starts making these recommendations. Competitive actions. Again, most of even most advanced revenue management systems from a technology perspective know very little about competition today. So it's all about my own history, my own observations on what consumers want, and without much of a recognition that, well, when they shop for travel, when they look for hotels, or they look for air ticket, they're exposed through the internet to all possible offers. And how do we make sure that our offers, which are coming from our revenue management systems, are adjusted towards that? So there's quite a lot of work which has been done in this area already, and that will continue to evolve. And then the last one which I'll mention there, although it's probably not the complete list, is experimentation. So even with all that data that we might be able to put into these systems, there is probably still some signals which we're missing. So over the last couple of years, we can see at the Agiforce and some other forums, people more and more experiment with things like reinforcement learning, when you just throw things out there and see how public reacts to this or how consumers react to it. And based on that, you're dynamically learning what the optimal offers are, what the optimal prices are. So if you ask me what's coming next to revenue management, it's data. And we will still have people like me who have been focusing on forecasting and optimization throughout my whole career. We will still have our fun with writing Greek letters on the whiteboards and figuring out how it should work. But the trends I see in the industry, and hence the trends which needs to be explored in the academia as well, is how do we incorporate all of this different data, all of these insights that this data provide for making this optimal decision on prices, or now a little bit more generic on the offers that we put in front of the computers. Sorry, in front of the computer, not computers yet, in front of the customers, right? So we're using computers to do this, but we're not offering them anything yet. So that's what I believe is coming next into the pricing and revenue management. That's what I believe that during COVID, this looking for different data signals, different data sources which can provide us additional insights during this disturbance, that trend has been accelerated. And that's what I believe the focus is going to be over the next 3 to 5 years. It's also very right time from a technology perspective, right? So getting all of this big data needs resources from a computational standpoint and needs new algorithms which are able to handle that data. And two big trends which I see in travel industry and maybe general in technology within society is cloud, migration to the cloud, and we are going through this trend as well, and adoption of AI and ML algorithms. So that's one of the big initiatives for us at Sabre. We call it Sabre Travel AI. It's introduction of AI and ML capabilities across all the products that Sabre produces, and we support about 80 to 90 different products for travel industry. But one of the early adopters for us is our products in retailing, in revenue management, in pricing, where we already see the real benefits of A, scaling into a cloud and managing the data much better, and B, adopting this AI and ML algorithms. And we're doing it with Google, but our providers are supporting these initiatives as well. And the last thing, what I'll tell you, I'll give you a real example. Some of the benefits that I think it will bring to potential collaboration between industry and academia, which I believe there is very significant upside there. And I don't think we'll leverage academic forums like this and academicians in general for generating these insights and studying these problems more and more. So that access to the data will enable more and more of these collaborations. And I'll give you an example. We are actually at Sabre right now doing a project together with Northwestern University. So there is a group of students led by Diego Klavjan. Some of you hopefully know him. This is what we do, and it kind of illustrates my point of bringing additional data into revenue management. So we are in Chicago right now. There is a lot of hotels in Chicago, most of them running revenue management systems based, as I said, on their data. Some of them are probably Michael's, and all of them are going through this process. Let's look at the history. These days, maybe not that much, but that's still the source of insights. Let's forecast demand. Let's optimize for optimal prices, optimal offers to consumers. Right? And they do it based on the history they have. So what we did with, or that project is at about halfway done, we said, well, what about we provide the data about people traveling to Chicago to that system? Because we at Sabre, we handle bookings from hundreds of airlines and thousands of hotels. So we do know about people searching for trips to Chicago. We do know about the bookings coming to Chicago. What if that data becomes available for hotel revenue management systems? Can it improve a forecast for this system? Can it improve a pricing for this system? So that's a project that the students are working on. We expect the completion sometimes later this year, and we are very interested in sites like this and examples like this, where, as I said, the trend of bringing more data into revenue management practice might enhance the offers which we make to consumers and might enhance the profitability for the suppliers of these travel offers. So with that, that's my contribution to today's, and thank you very much for your attention.